Welcome to our explainer on the gritty, brutal reality of what it actually took to survive and climb the ranks of Rome's legendary military machine. You know, we're so used to seeing these pristine marble statues and hearing epic tales of glorious conquests. But today, we're stripping all that myth away to look at the day-to-day survival of the actual guys on the ground. This image here perfectly captures the sheer, unadulterated panic of a brand new recruit, a Tiro. Just look at the sweat and that dawning realization on his face. When you signed up, you were staring down the barrel of 6 uninterrupted months of Roman military training. And just to put that into perspective for you, this training makes modern special forces look like a summer camp. The explicit goal was literally to break your soft civilian body down completely and build it back into a machine that could march for days and fight for hours without complaining once.
So I want you to put yourself in their sandals for a second. Ask yourself, do you really have the grit, the stamina, and honestly, the sheer luck to climb what was arguably the world's most terrifying military ladder? Let's find out exactly how far you'd make it. Section 1. Welcome to the meat grinder. Okay, so as a Tigro, your daily life is definitely not about glorious combat. Not at all. You're basically the camp intern. You spend your days hauling incredibly heavy supplies, digging graves, and yes, digging the latrines from sunrise to sunset. You're overtrained to the point of total exhaustion, getting paid practically zero, and hovering over all this grueling manual labor is the constant looming threat of physical punishment. Literally every superior above you is just waiting for an excuse to make an example out of you. And when they punished you, it was extreme. As historian Pat Southern points out here, discipline was absolute and it was terrifying. If a unit showed cowardice, they practiced decimation. This meant 1 in 10 men were chosen by a literal lottery and beaten to death by their own friends. And the survivors? They weren't spared. They faced the ultimate military humiliation of being put on barley rations instead of their standard wheat. The message was crystal clear, right? You need to fear your commanders way more than you fear the enemy. Section 2. Life on the front lines.
Congratulations! You survived training. You finally get your Roman starter pack, standard armor, a shield, sword, and spear. But man, the financial reality here is pretty grim. Sure, you're getting paid a little bit more, but those wages are heavily deducted. They nickel and dime you for your food, your clothing, your mandatory burial club, and a pension scheme. You're practically paying for the privilege of fighting. And your gear? That's your life. Soldiers who lost their weapons or shields would fight savagely to get them back, often dying in the process, just to avoid the brutal shame and punishment of returning empty-handed.
Now, let's say you're really skilled. You might get promoted to the immunes, basically the engineers. There are some massive perks here. Higher pay, no more digging latrines, and no more exhausting night guard duty. Instead, you're building bridges and siege towers. But there's a brutal twist. You're actually working harder while the frontline guys catch a break. And worse, smart enemies don't just target the fighters, they target you. If they take out the engineer, the siege tower doesn't get built. So you become a highly valued but massively targeted asset. It's a huge bullseye on your back. Section 3. The middle management bloodbath. Middle management in Rome was psychologically brutal. Step 1, you become a principalis. Basically, you're the enforcer, and suddenly you are hated by your subordinates because you are the one dragging your former buddies to the whipping post. Step 2, you become an Optio, which is the Centurion's second in command. Imagine the Centurion takes an arrow to the chest. Well, you are instantly promoted right there in the middle of a screaming battlefield. And step 3 is just pure survival. You have to run the head counts, keep formations tight, and enforce the rules. But your power lives and dies with your superior. If you blow a head count or the line breaks, it could quite literally mean your head on a spike.
Section 4. The elite Centurions. So you might be wondering, why on earth would anyone want that job? Well, this explains the motivation perfectly. Massive pay jumps. A regular soldier is earning their base pay, constantly struggling with all those deductions we talked about. But if you survive long enough to command a century of 100 men as a centurion, you are suddenly making 15 times what the regular grunt makes. It's basically hazard pay at its finest. And they needed it to compensate for the incredibly high casualty rate, because centurions led from the absolute front lines. If you wanted your men to charge into hell, you had to be the first one through the door. And if you somehow survive decades of this frontline carnage, you might become the absolute legend known as the primus pillis, the first spear.
You get to lead the elite first cohort. When the legate needs advice on tactics, you're the one he turns to. And remember that massive pay multiplier? Try 30 times a regular soldier's pay. If you survive this tenure, you have enough wealth to literally buy your way into Rome's elite equestrian class. You go from the bloody mud straight to the wealthy upper crust. Assuming, of course, you don't make one fatal mistake on your very last day.
Section 5. Aristocrats and Army Commanders.
Enter the Tribune. Okay, imagine being a battle-hardened veteran who's been through it all, and your new superior is a 25-year-old aristocrat with absolutely zero combat experience. Yeah. They didn't earn this rank by slogging through the mud or surviving Germanic ambushes. They earned it because they had the right last name. The Senate often placed them there to act as spies or to keep a check on the Legion, so naturally they get an ice-cold reception from the troops. To survive that sheer level of disrespect, a smart tribune had to desperately study logistics, tactics, and payrolls, basically fighting to prove their competence without ever actually swinging a sword. And finally, we reach the legate, the supreme commander of the Legion. Here we see a truly fascinating shift. As a frontline grunt, your daily danger is enemy swords, starvation, and brutal centurions, right? But as the legate, commanding from the rear, you've traded the physical dangers of the battlefield for something much, much more venomous. Your danger is political. Sure, you have absolute power inside the Legion, but outside of it, the Emperor is watching you. Senate factions are whispering. One single political misstep, or even just becoming a little too popular with your own troops, and you might find your head in a basket before dawn. Your real job isn't just winning wars, it's surviving Rome. So, to wrap up this explainer, we've really seen the whole picture here, from the grueling chores and docked pay of the lowly recruits, all the way up through the heartbreaking discipline of the middle managers, to the lucrative but totally lethal front lines of the Centurions, and finally to the paranoid, high-stakes chess match of the legates. Looking at all of this, from bloody swords to political daggers, which rank in the Roman Legion would you actually risk your life for? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the source material, and keep